Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now, it's real time. Sponsored by Cokewell Casino Resort.
Welcome back, everyone. Joined in the studio by Mr. Keith Archer, the man behind the Ultimate Egg Cure. And Keith, it goes without saying, you're really well known. First things first, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. You're helping out a lot of folks. We've been getting a lot of questions. This is that time of year, you know, when people are making eggs, right?
For sure.
If it's from Silvers, which is my favorite egg to cure, but you can't go when you got big old Chinook eggs like that as well. Everybody wants to know the easiest way, the best way to make eggs that fish well, that the fish want to bite. And there's obviously tons of different ways and theories to do that. So let's talk about yours. First things first, you got 4 different skeins here. Yep. Chinook eggs, I'm assuming silver eggs or maybe a small Chinook.
Still Chinook eggs, yep. Okay. Upriver bright eggs caught yesterday.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything different between the large berry skeins and the small berry skeins that you do, or do you just kind of treat them all the same?
So there's quite a bit of difference in these skeins. One of the things that happens as fish mature is they often transfer the fat from their bodies into the eggs, increasing the lipid levels, okay? The cures process and what we do, which we'll share a little bit more later in this, but we discuss how we break down those lipids and what we do to help disperse those through the water column.
Oh, but, okay, you're way over my head. Lipids, is that like the scent?
Fats.
Okay, that's the fats.
Right,
okay.
So the fats in the body, as the female matures, she's transferring those over into her reproductive organs, right? So that these eggs begin to turn from this size over to this size, working into bigger berries. Eventually she spawns them, lays them to where they're you know, effectively in the gravel and fertilized. And,
and they get the chance to hatch.
There they go. So we catch them throughout the timelines of the process. Smaller eggs, myself personally, I like to save these, set them aside for steelhead. Summer steelhead especially. Winter steelhead, they work great too. But much more tight clusters. If you have smolt, other fish around that would be engaging those eggs, they are much more difficult to get off the hook.
Sure.
Right?
They have to work a lot harder to rip them off if they're biting at.
There you go. So like when I'm side drifting, for instance, some of the tributaries and those sort of things, I've come to realize when I use a larger bait, it just takes one little and that whole bait's
gone.
Skein. That's all that's left, right? Where I want to keep a profile, right? I want to keep a profile of a nickel, dime, quarter size, depending on where I'm fishing, and I want that to hold up in regards to, so the steelhead have a chance to.
So you would say that if somebody does get a fish and they got smaller eggs, maybe kind of lean a little bit more towards the steelhead side of cure if you fish them, or of course you can still use those for Chinook if you cure them up the right way.
You can.
And then these bigger skeins, maybe back bounce or bobber fishing, that kind of thing.
Absolutely, hover fishing. That's another one of my favorite techniques.
Sure.
Right, and also effectively we're using the boat as the bobber.
Sure.
And that in itself is a great technique that we use in some of these tributaries out there, Lower Columbia. Some of these tributaries that are dumping into the Columbia. There's places that we go hover these eggs that not really paid attention to yet. Upper Columbia, above Bonneville, it's becoming recognized and well known. You know, the mouth of the big white salmon, the Klickitat, these sorts of places.
Mouth of Deschutes.
Mouth of Deschutes, where they got these cold water influxes that drive these fish to feed. We've seen some challenges in the Columbia more recently here where the water temps have, at Bonneville, I've seen 73, 73 and a half, you know, and these fish, they just go lockjaw. You watch them literally swim over the dam and their mouths are closed. They aren't even, they have no desire to feed, very minimal desire to feed. So the success levels that we're seeing out there with 15, 17, 20,000 fish going by, people are just like, what's going on, what's going on? The last day or two here, we've seen those water temps drop.
Right.
We're in the 70 and a half, 71, and all of a sudden you're hearing these reports of some of the best fishing we've seen in the season.
Yeah,
right?
in just the last couple of days. Yeah.
It's been epic. Some of these other rivers down there, I've definitely hung bait like this in the Lower Columbia and done very, very, very well.
Well, of course, you're starting out with the perfect product.
Sure.
I mean, the eggs are cleaned out nicely. There's very little blood in there, even in the main going along the side. So that's what would start the process. Make sure you get them out of there the right way, take care of them. And then when you do that the right way, what's your next step in the process? Before we get to any secret stuff, when we get started with the egg in the right form, like what you have here, what's your next step?
I think the biggest thing is when we land one of these fish, okay, whether it's whether you can tell it's a buck or female, we treat it all the same. So I give them a light tap on the back of the head, okay, and then I initially will set them in my fish box, bleed bucket, whatever it may be that you use, and I'll clip those gills. Use a knife, use scissors to clip those gills, and I want that fish to bleed out. If you pay attention, that heart will beat for long periods of time beyond that death.
Which helps get that out.
Yes, it helps get all that blood out, and I think that's extremely important. I think if we beat that fish aggressively, I think there's an initial shock, and she'll dump the blood internally into their internal organs, and you'll see a lot more of these lines here in the actual egg, this upper line where they'll be infiltrated with blood all the way down into the sides and even into the cavity of the skein itself, where you get these much bloodier eggs. And
okay, well, that's a good tip all by itself, paying attention to actually how you dispatch them. Okay.
So once dispatched, then, when we take those fish home, okay, we either clean them at the river, we clean them at home. It's very important to, when you remove these eggs from the fish, to keep them away from ice, okay? If you put these in a Ziploc bag and you're transporting them and you set them right on top of your ice, one of the things that I've come to recognition with is the egg will gel, okay? The membrane of the egg will be compromised just in itself. It'll create a softer egg, no matter what. No matter what you do, if they ever get to the point where they're touching ice and become frozen, okay, they will
soften up in the ultimate when everything's done.
Correct.
Okay.
It's like flash frozen eggs, for instance. I get a lot of people that reach out and say, hey, I can't get eggs, I don't have access to eggs. There are flash frozen eggs, and they do work, but that thaw process is super important with a flash frozen egg.
Gotcha.
Don't just set them at room temp. If you set them at room temp, they're going to they're going to be almost jelly by the time they're thawed.
Right.
Thaw them in a refrigerator. Slow process, kind of like a turkey for Thanksgiving. Give it the time, give it the necessary time to thaw out, and then prepare them for curing.
Okay, so you've gotten through all that, everything's done well, you end up with the eggs just like this. And I know we've talked about this in the past, but is it a situation of where you're thinking ahead of how you're going to use the eggs? Like, are you cubing them out, or are you just filleting them? What do you do next?
So we'll jump into that. One of the things I look at is the cure process and time. So we have a few different options. The Ultimate Egg Cure was designed with the intent to increase fermentation in the egg. That takes a little bit of time. You can expedite it with temperature, okay, or you can utilize it in the fridge. So I get people reaching out and, hey, what do I do when I'm curing these? Can I do it at room temp? Can I do it at refrigerator temp? You can do either way, absolutely. Both ways work well. I've found myself personally, from day one, to utilize the fridge, and as I've expressed on my website and YouTube channels and things like that, the other social media pages, that I will almost always cure somewhere between 5 to 12 days, depending on the maturity of the actual egg. These less mature eggs, these are 3 to 5, that sort of thing. They're a quick cure process. We step up to a little bit more of a mature egg. These are going to be 5 to 8, 5 to 9, and then even the most maturest of eggs, we're going to go, 8 to 12 days.
Wow.
What we're looking at, I don't know if I'm going to take it one step further before we jump in and start curing. One of the things that happens in this curing process is we actually start to create what's called lactic acid. Okay, lactic acid in itself is a little bit of a pungent smell. Okay, we would, over time, people always would sniff their eggs and be like, do you smell that? Do you smell that? And it's like we could never formulate what it was, or nobody really understood what it was scientifically. But that lactic acid in itself is what helps disperse, okay, with minor amounts of ethanol that are formed in a bacterial fermentation process that helps disperse these scents of the actual egg, the proteins, the lipids, these sort of things, as they're breaking them down through the actual water column. Have I lost you yet?
I mean, he breaks this stuff down on a molecular level, and for you egg guys, you're like, yeah, totally, dude, sure, we're following you. Most of us are like, just throw the powder on, and what do we do next? But okay, so I mean, really, you're thinking about very fine bits and pieces of the process. Lactic acid, how it's going to disperse when it gets in the water.
Correct.
Most of us, I don't care. I mean, I just want to have an egg that I know that is going to smell good, fish good, and that the fish want to actually bite.
Sure.
So we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, we're going to start that process of actually curing it. What is the next step?
Yep.
But we got some secret stuff for you. And one in particular, I guarantee you have not seen, and I can't believe that he's actually going to expose it here in front of all of you. But we'll have that in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.